My ex, 31 female, and I, 33 male, have a young tween daughter, Mia. We divorced when Mia was 2, and it was messy. My ex fought me at every step, doing whatever she could to get custody, money, and everything. In the end, it was decided we would have equal custody. That was what I'd wanted, though she refused originally. Yet, after all that effort, a year later my ex decided she wanted less time and would only see her every second weekend. Of course, she coupled this with blaming me, saying I won't let Mia see her, and other BS. I never badmouthed her in front of Mia, but this made it hard. Luckily, Mia would quickly believe me when I said it wasn't true, but it was constant. At the very least, I loved having Mia around more, and she's happy, even being stuck with me more often. About 3 years ago, my ex started dating and later married her new partner. He had a son who was Mia's stepbrother. The kid and Mia are close. She loves her brother, and I think she kind of looks up to him. Her stepfather seemed like a decent guy, and Mia likes him. He was more willing to parent and be involved in her life than my ex. However, 2 months ago, my ex and her husband had a daughter. Mia was excited and would give me updates all leading up to the birth. I didn't enjoy that, but she was so happy and excited, I put my pride aside. Unfortunately, or fortunately depending on perspective, a few weeks ago my ex told me that Mia is now mine and won't be involved now that she has her real family. She's even dropped all of Mia's stuff off while she was at school, so I don't complain about it, and has said that I'm not ever to bring her over to her. She's willing to legally give her away. I don't know if that's something she can do, but that's what she said to me, as long as she doesn't have to pay. The money isn't worth the fighting and BS. Honestly, I'm happy to have Mia. She means the world to me, but I don't get how she can be so cold. When my ex's weekend came, I told Mia that her mother was busy and couldn't see her. I haven't said the whole truth yet, but next week she's meant to see them. Mia has been complaining that she wants to see her mother, and especially her new sister and stepbrother again. I think she thinks it's my fault since her mom has always said it's because of me that they didn't see each other more often. I don't know what to say or how. I want her to know she's loved, even if her mother sucks, and I don't want to hurt her. But what my ex is choosing is unforgivable. I'm lost and don't have anyone to ask about this. What should I do to be there for Mia? It would be best if you consult with a lawyer. Ex might be tricking you into violating the agreement to get 100% custody. Get whatever agreement you can sign with your ex though, so you have it in writing that she no longer wants to be involved. Worst case scenario, you end up in court later down the line, but unless you're an awful person, no judge is going to award custody back to her mom years later after you look after her full time. Agree, he's being set up. She could be telling him that he wouldn't bring her over and then use it as proof he's alienating the child. OP, never agree to opt out of anything. You don't need the money right now. Put it into a college fund. Document every weekend your ex does not want Mia. Get it in writing that she refuses to get Mia, and it is not you withholding her. Get a lawyer and take her to the cleaner. This is so beyond heartbreaking. I'm so sorry. I wish there was something I could think of other than getting a child therapist involved. Again, I'm so sorry. As a mother myself, I can't remotely imagine what is wrong with that woman. Part of me is hoping that this is the postpartum depression talking, and she'll get better once that's over. I mean, she was a piece of work to begin with, but some have already mentioned it, but contact a child therapist right away and explain the situation. They can help you break the news so that a child can understand. They might even be there with you to do it. More importantly, also contact a lawyer like yesterday. Your ex-wife has proven herself to be a cold, deranged sociopath who won't hesitate to stoop to any depth at all. She also seems volatile. There is a real chance that unless you get this cleared with a court ASAP, she can simply change her mind later and accuse you of withholding her daughter from her, which would lead to major legal ramifications for you. So my female 32, father passed 2 years ago. He left me and my half-sister. We both have different moms, same dad. Inheritance that was equally split between her and me. My sister spent her inheritance money in just a few months. She's a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids and always had a financial hardship. I haven't touched my inheritance money. I live in an apartment that I inherited from my biological mom in 2016. My sister set me down to talk about her and her husband's current situation. She said her husband could no longer pay rent and they needed a place to stay. I asked for time to think since her husband and I don't get along. She said it was okay. The next day she showed up with her tone completely changed. She said her husband thinks I'm being manipulative by taking time to think about letting them come, and that my apartment is an inheritance and she's my sister. Therefore, I should share it with her and the kids. She said her husband also says that if I wasn't going to let my sister share the apartment, then I should give her my half of my dad's inheritance, saying it's not fair since my sister doesn't work, has 2 kids, and will soon be homeless, while I have a paying job, no kids, and a whole apartment to myself. I was speechless. I opened the argument by saying the apartment was from Mom, and Mom was never related to my half-sister, so she has no right to her inheritance. Also, she already had half of her dad's inheritance, so she can't touch mine just because her husband thinks so. She started crying, telling me to think about my nephews. Again, I parroted her husband's words, saying I had 2 options, letting them move in or giving them support money for my inheritance. I said she and the kids could move in, but her husband? No, he's banned from my place. She pitched a fit, saying she couldn't believe I wanted to keep the kids' father away from them, and I'm the reason they'll be homeless for refusing. Still, I flipped out and said that I'm not, but it's her deadbeat of a husband that she keeps repeating his nasty words instead of holding him accountable for the crappy situation they're in. I told her I wouldn't continue to speak to her since her husband speaks for her. She left after the blow-up. Days later, I discussed this with my stepmom, and she said she couldn't believe that I cut contact with my sister only for asking for help, and that I needed to see her soon and arrange for one of the 2 options to be considered. She reminded me that innocent kids are involved, even if my brother-in-law can be rude, but I'm standing my ground on letting him into my place after what he said. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They said there were only 2 options. They missed the not your problem option. Literally, their financial decisions are their decisions, not your repercussion. Your stepmother can take them in. They can go to a homeless shelter. Stealing your money and taking over your apartment are not options on the table. Yelling at you should automatically equal a door slamming in their faces. If your sister starts parroting the husband, slam that door. They need to deal with their lousy decisions. Not the idiot. You can't let any of them in now. If you let your sister and the kids stay, as soon as you go out, they'll let brother-in-law in, and he'll refuse to leave. You won't be able to get him out. Your sister is as much of a leech as her husband. The kids are innocent, but have crap parents. Block all of them. Maybe OP can offer only to take the kids. Or if the kids are older, why don't they temporarily stay at a friend's house? I'm sure they'd still throw a big tantrum either way, since OP isn't giving in to their explicit demands. But that'd be the safer choice. Only take the kiddos. I 100% agree that sister would sneak her husband in while OP wasn't home. My cousin got married 3 weeks ago. Cousin and I are paternal cousins related to my father. Father and I are estranged, and the first time I saw him in the last 4 years was at the wedding. While there, he approached me multiple times to talk. I said no firmly, more than a dozen times, until he pushed yet again, and I snapped. Some background. My parents divorced when I was little. My dad put his relationships before me a lot, and it was hard to be around him at times. Some of his girlfriends were fine, others were not. When I was 10, he met his wife, and 2 years later she got pregnant. I lost my mom the day their oldest was born. It happened in the same hospital, but he was with his wife and tried to get me to act excited to meet the baby. That was hard, I won't lie. We got into a fight the very next day because I had no interest in meeting the baby, and a year later when it was her first birthday, I was all depressed, and it was an issue, especially when I didn't want to join in the celebration. The relationship was already broken, but by then, it was gone beyond repair. He was mad and thought I was selfish. I felt abandoned and couldn't share their joy because I lost the most critical person in the world to me. I moved in with my grandparents about 6 months before my 18th birthday, and the day before my birthday was the last time I spoke to my father, until the wedding. And like I said, I snapped when he just kept approaching me. I told him that he sucked for expecting me to be happy about a baby being born the day my mom died, and that he abandoned me for his wife and new kid when I was losing the most important person in my world, and then he called me selfish. I told him that he had let me down and nothing he could do would fix it, and I could not make it clearer that I didn't want anything to do with him. I left the wedding, but my cousin followed me out and tried to talk me into staying and reassured me that I did nothing wrong, but I didn't want to make more of an issue. But my aunt is angry. My aunt is my father's sister. She told me I was an idiot for making such a scene at my cousin's wedding, that I should have continued walking away, that it was terrible to say that where others could hear, and not only had I upset my father, but his family was there and heard the whole thing, and so did her son-in-law's family. My cousin said her husband's family heard nothing, and neither did most of the guests, and that her mom is blowing it out of proportion. But I feel bad because it has caused even more family drama than we already have. Me not talking to my father is quite controversial in my paternal family. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You didn't make a scene. Your father did. You told him repeatedly that you didn't want to talk to him, and he repeatedly ignored you. Since putting his needs over yours was the root of your initial issue with him, I don't think he's changed much. My question though, why on earth would he just not leave you alone after what sounds like many, many years of no contact? It's like he was asking for a fight. If your dad wanted to speak with you honestly and openly, he would have reached out before or after the wedding. However, he instead tried to instigate a public scene because, more than speaking to you, he was interested in setting up a scenario that would cast you as a villain and justify his neglect and abdication of the parental role. Trust your cousin's interpretation of how this looked to others, and don't worry about being the idiot. This was a calculated provocation, and I'm really sorry it happened. Yep, he wants to be able to gain sympathy from his family. Woe is me. My child refused to talk to me. You should hope his whole family had heard the truth, because for most of them, I bet it was for the very first time. Your aunt is an idiot for knowing the truth and still berating you after you snapped when your awful father wouldn't stop pushing you. My best friend, let's call her Amy, and I have been inseparable since we were young children. When we were teens, she started dating this boy, let's call him James. So Amy and James were great together for a long time, but I don't like him. First of all, he was awful towards me. When we were alone together, he called me names and how I was lucky I was allowed to be near Amy. His family was just as bad. I remember going to their house and them calling me the maid instead of my name, and Amy telling me horrible things they said about Asian people. After all this, he was just behaving strangely. He would make Amy text him 24/7, always updating him on what she was doing. If he couldn't contact her, he would ring me and text me. There were times I had to cover for her so she could have some time alone. He then started policing what she wore and what she ate. He would call her fat and make her eat a, quote, healthy diet of 1 apple a day until she was his desired weight. There were just many horrible things he did that I can't talk about. So I get a call saying that they're getting married, and Amy wants me to be her bridesmaid. Now, I would do anything for Amy, but after years of me telling her James is not the one and trying to get her to see the truth, I couldn't bring myself to say that I would be her bridesmaid. I told her I couldn't support this marriage and I wouldn't go. I said she needed to open her eyes before she ruined her life. This sent her to tears, and she was sobbing and shouting, asking me why I was like this. After 10 years of them being together and witnessing this abuse, my compassion is gone. So I got angry and told her I couldn't be her best friend anymore while she was with James, and to message me if they ever broke up. I don't know what to do because I feel like an idiot. I feel like I was too mean and shouldn't have said what I did, as it is her life. Not the idiot. It's tough love, but good on you for taking a stand. Amy's in too deep to listen to you, but she will remember your words when she needs your help the most. You can only do so much to save someone. If they don't want to see the bad, you can't make them see it. Not the idiot. Your friend is in a toxic relationship and she doesn't want out. Because of the length of the relationship, she either enjoys it or is suffering from the sunk cost dilemma. Look it up, really. According to your story, they both called you the maid, so she's easily swayed by him. I'm shocked you lasted 10 years. I would have made the speech before 10 weeks. In my town, there's a tradition that kids do minor vandalism around town the night before Thanksgiving. It's similar to Mischief Night in some areas. I always warned my kids that they were not to participate. However, about 10 years ago, my son Tim, 17, decided to disregard this and hit our neighbor's house. They ripped out several shrubs, toilet papered their trees, threw eggs at the house, and sprayed silly string all over the property. I found the receipts in the trash, confronted Tim, took him to the bank, made him withdraw his entire savings from his first job, marched him over there, made him apologize, and hand the money over. I told the neighbor Bob that we would cover any additional cost and that Tim would be coming back with his friends to clean up the entire mess. Bob thanked us, said he didn't want us on his property, and to leave. We left, and about an hour later, a police officer arrived. After an interview, Tim was charged with vandalism and released into our custody. Because of the honor code at school, Tim lost his office as student council vice president. We had to pay for an attorney, and Tim almost had his acceptance letter for his first choice college rescinded. In the end, he paid a fine and did community service. While I wasn't happy with Bob, I never blamed him and told Tim to look in the mirror when he wanted someone to blame. This morning, I woke up to my irrigation system and several small shrubs ripped out, several lights on my house smashed, expletives spray painted on my garage, and eggs all over the house. It's thousands in damage. I looked at our cameras, 2 of which were destroyed, and it was Bob's son, Nick, and several friends. I called Bob and let him know what happened. He replied, "You're wrong. He was here all night," and hung up on me. I called back and told him that I had it on video, and he replied that I was mistaken and hung up again. I called back, got his answering machine, and informed him that I would be calling the police and the school. The high school has a significant championship football game next week. College scouts will be there, and Nick is supposed to play. So if I call the police and school, his season will be over. Bob called back and said that he wanted to see the tape, and if it was Nick, he would make him give me the names of the other kids. I told him that I expected that regardless, as well as money to cover the damage. Bob said we should pursue the other kids because if Nick was there, he was tagging along, and they would not pay for any damage. Based on this video, this is false. He told me that I'm evil and spiteful for even considering ruining his son's future over a prank. There is no question by placing that call, Nick's future will be damaged. My wife thinks I was vengeful over 10 years ago, and I need to work it out with the school and police. Would I be the idiot to move forward in this way? Not the idiot. Did he consider your son's consequences when you tried to do the right thing? What does this teach Bob's son? I'm a football player, and I can get away with it. Not the right message. You should be proud that you taught your son the proper lesson. I would call the cops. It's not small damage. This, and the fact that you gave him the chance to pay for the damages instead of directly calling the cops, is proof enough that you're not vengeful. He called the cops even though you offered to pay for the damages, but he doesn't want to pay for any damages to your property and doesn't want to get the cops involved. He can't get both ways, so either he should pay the money or face the cops. But I'm petty, so I might call the cops either way. Not the idiot. They didn't even consider the consequence when they called the police on your son, even when you were a gentleman and did the right thing. You have every right to call the cops. If I were you, I would have called the police the second I saw that video. You have tried being the gentleman and bigger person before. Not again. God, I got angry reading the last part where he called you evil and your wife called you vengeful. And what kind of messed up town do you live in? Jesus, people are so stupid.